the Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor Podcast. This is a show where I help you become an even more awesome driving instructor by speaking to leaders, experts, innovators, and game changers. As always, I am your splendid host, Terry Cook. I'm delighted to be here, but even more delighted that you have chosen to listen, because today we are talking all things audit. That's right. I'm 6 seasons into the Instructor Podcast, and I am finally talking about audit, which probably says quite a lot about me and my thought process around audit. But we finally got around to it, and today, to discuss it, we are joined by the ORDIT Academy, which is Kev Field and Neil Wightman. But just before we get stuck into that episode, I want to, first of all, say a big thank you. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. We've come to the end of the year. It's the last episode of season 6. It's our last episode of 2023. We've done record numbers again this year. Downloads are up by, I think it's 56% in total this year. So whether you've listened, shared, however you've interacted this year, I just want to say a massive thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you want to know a bit about what's coming up in 2024, hang about to the end of the show and I'll tell you some of the cool things that are happening next year. But I also want to give a little plug to a new podcast that's come out on the 1st of January. And then every Monday from that date, there will be a new podcast called 1 Minute Driving Instructor Tips. That's right. In under 2 minutes, you will be getting top tips around how to build your driving school, improve your driving school, become a better instructor, pass your Part 3 or standards check, all that kind of cool stuff every Monday starting on the 1st of January. So you can go to the show notes to find a link, or you can search for 1 Minute Driving Instructor Tips wherever you listen to podcasts. So go and do that now. And then when you've done it, let's get stuck into the show. Today on the Instructor Podcast, I am joined by the ORDIT Academy and the two amazing human beings behind it in Neil Wightman and Kev Field. How are we doing, guys?
All right, thank you.
Very well, thank you, Terry.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for joining me today, because when I was planning out this season 6, it suddenly registered that I am now on season 6 and I still haven't spoke about audit once. And it's quite a prominent thing in our industry. So I thought it's probably about time I did. And I couldn't think of 2 better people to speak to. So as anyone listens to the show regularly knows, will know that I usually start off by asking the guest whether they are an expert, leader, innovator, or game changer. But I'm going to throw a slight spanner in the works today and ask you to describe each other. So we're going to go with you first, Neil. Do you want to tell me about Kev? Is he a leader, expert, innovator, game changer, or any, like a combination of all?
I would say that Kev is a combination of them all. In the training that he delivers, in the excellent product of confident drivers that he delivers, and being, with the ORDIT Academy as well, and we're delivering high-level training, which is really good fun. So I would put Kev in that group of all of them, to be quite honest.
So there's no pressure on you now.
He's Kev. So nice, isn't he? He's so nice.
If you say any less than all 4 now, it's just it'd be brilliant. So, Kev, where does Neil sit? Leader, expert, innovator, or game changer?
I ain't got a clue. No, I'm joking. He's a game changer for the book he's done. Innovator for his ideas that he comes up with. Is a mixture. Again, it's going to say a bit boring, but yeah, I think you have to be a mixture of all of them, don't you? I think, to get where we are, to show the passion that you want to improve, I think you have to be a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the innovator and leader in what he's doing.
Yeah. I've said this before, but I think like with innovation now, it's very, very hard to be completely original. It's very, very hard to be completely innovative. I think it's seeing something and changing it a little bit to make it your own or putting your own spin in it. And I think both you guys do that really well, actually, because I've obviously worked with you both a little bit individually and known you a little bit. So, yeah, I think you both do that quite well. So as much as it's a bit too nice and friendly for my liking, I'll take it. But we have come on today to talk about audit, and as I said, I think it's a reflection on me, if I'm being honest, the fact that it's taken me this long to talk about it, because I've not had a massive interest in it, and this is, me being completely honest about it. And I think it's because I see that much negativity about it online, that much almost dismissiveness about it. So I think I've kind of steered away from it a little bit, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. So I'm looking forward to picking your brains about it. And for anyone that's unaware, ORDIT stands for, and I'm referring to my notes here, Official Register of Driving Instructor Training. So there you go. That's what ORDIT is. So I'm going to come to you first with Kev. For this general question, what is audit? When we talk about audit, what do we mean?
So I think it's where we're in instructor trainers, but we've passed an assessment, or it used to be called an inspection, but it's basically the DVSA have looked at what you do and they say, yeah, you're good and you can apply to go onto the register of the audit. You can go onto the audit register. So you have to have the assessment done. You have to have your records checked. There's so much more into it than that, but that's basically what it is. The DVSA have assessed you, what you do, and now you can go onto that register.
Yeah. And at the minute, they're not accepting any new applications, are they, until is it the 31st of March next year?
Yeah, they've stopped, obviously, because of all the people that are now out doing L tests. They've basically put it on hold. And there is so many people in the previous to that are still waiting from COVID to have their audit inspection, or their audit has run out, or they applied to go on audit. There is just so much of a backlog because audit is not prioritized. If you think about where the priorities are, it's L tests, it's part 2s, part 3s. We're not really in that bracket.
Yeah. And I suppose it's not prioritized because it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. So I think a lot of instructors, now again, I include myself in this with my ignorance, if I'm being honest, kind of dismiss it a little bit. But I will just say, I think it's probably a really good time to actually talk about it because there is no audit assessments going on. So for anyone that's thinking about, becoming audit trained and or getting training, they can start planning for it now for the future. So I think it's a really good time. So I want to talk a little bit about the assessment process, though. So I'll come to you, Neil. Can you talk me through what the assessment is?
So the assessment is obviously you're going to take a PDI or an ADI and deliver a training session in front of the examiner. Very much like a standards check, but more aimed at trainer and encouraging them to become more to be able to train people as well. So, an ADI for a standards check, for example, needs that bit of guidance from that, shall we say, so-called expert, or that PDI needs that expertise to be able to transfer the learnings to his learners as well. And it's understanding how he's going to do that. But it's just like a standards check. It is just delivering a session as you would in front of an examiner.
Does it need to be role playing, or can you take a student along?
You can either take a PDI or an ADI.
Yeah.
But obviously it can't be role played anymore. It is exactly like the standards check. It's got to be a current lesson or a lesson for an ADI that struggled with his standards check, failed his standards check, for example. And it's just building his skills and his training to be able to go and pass the standards check again comfortably.
Yeah, I don't think I phrased that question very well. So it's like the person that's training, so the person that's going for the audit assessment isn't sitting in the back watching a PDI or an ADI deliver a lesson, are they? They're actually conducting the session.
Yeah, they've got to conduct the session from the front now because delivering it from the back has been stopped. So you're delivering it potentially from the driver's seat to the PDI.
Yeah. And could that, I mentioned then, could that include role play? So could that be them, driving and committing some faults with the ADI or PDI, then attempting to pick up on them? Or
Yeah, role play is part of the assessment. Obviously, there needs to be a clear identification if you're going to go into role and you both understand that you're going to be into role. But you could be from the driver's side, in role, demonstrating or doing a fault that a learner driver would do, and a PDI is picking it up. So it's very much a session sometimes where you are in role, yeah.
Yeah. And I was looking at the audit assessment form today, which I don't think I've ever actually looked at before. And you kind of mentioned it, but it looked remarkably like the standards check form.
It is, to be quite honest. There's just certain words that have changed. So from pupil, it's to trainee instructor.
Yeah.
And that's where the difference is. All three of them, the part 3, the standards check, and the audit assessment, are working off each other.
Yeah. And the other thing I didn't know, Kev, was the score difference. I guess you would need a higher score as on an audit, but I didn't realize it'd be like 43. So does that?
Well, that's it. It's literally 43 at a pass.
Yeah.
I know you get a grade A, but it's pass, and that's it. There's a fail after that. There's no grade B.
Yeah, because you need to be a grade A, don't you, to be able to take the audit in the first place?
Yeah. I think part of the assessment process has changed. That we've noticed that's probably hit the instructor trainers hardest, that they're not up to scratch with, is the training records. Because your training records have to be sent off now for the examiner to see, and to see whether or not they're up to scratch. And if he doesn't think they're up to scratch, he won't let you book an assessment.
Are they getting more stringent with that, do you think?
100%, yeah.
And so I'm guessing then, you're obviously not naming names, but you're seeing a lot of people coming short in that area.
Well, I'm going to even mention myself, my records, and, I used to keep records and I thought they was okay. But now they want to see a little bit more detail into, what was the reason that I conducted that session and why did I do it that way? So it gives you a real insight into what you're doing. Plus, also, they want to see the pupils' reflection as well. So I think it's gone a step further.
Is that good or
to
bad?
make sure record keeping's up to scratch.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's a good thing, to be quite honest. It gives a good indication of what the trainer's like and how they deliver their training, and the sort of things that you are actually recording.
I think the only thing I'd say, because I think I would agree. Again, I'm very, very naive with this stuff. I don't know a lot. This is me being completely honest, but I think the one thing I would query potentially is if they're raising standards, if you like, of what's acceptable to be audit trained, but it's still voluntary. Could that be putting people off? If they're almost making it harder or more work, could that potentially put people off that are thinking of becoming audit trained?
See, I think it goes back. I'm going to go back a few years now, and part of the audit, they wanted to revamp it, and they wanted people on the audit to be the best of the best. I think that was the phrase that the DVSA used. But I don't think they've gone far enough. But at the same time, it's a step in that direction, and record keeping is part of that, I think.
The other thing I read, and maybe you can shed some clarification on this because it wasn't very clear, and I was looking on the gov.uk website, so you can imagine it's not very clear. It was saying that if you fail once, you can just rebook and resit, but if you fail twice, there's a potential they'll call you in for a standards check. Is that the case, Neil?
That is the case, yeah. And then you have to attain your grade A again before you then can go back to trying the audit again.
So, in theory, I could pass a standard check with a grade A, go to become audit, fail twice, get called in for a standard check, be completely demoralised and disillusioned and lose all confidence, fail 3 standards checks and lose my career. And if we're thinking of reasons why people aren't following up on audit, that just seems a little bit harsh to me, but maybe I'm being naive again. I don't know.
I think if you're going for audit, though, you've put enough into it to be able to pass and want to strive to be audit, don't you?
Yeah.
You will be done enough work to put yourself into that position. You're not going to put your head above the parapet and then say, just come and fire at me, sort of thing. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. And look, I'm going to use an extreme example there. I'm just trying to look at why so many people don't choose to go down the audit route. And I think that I'm looking at some things there, and it's like, to me, it should either be mandatory or a little bit more accessible potentially as well, especially because I've just spoke about the backlog. So in fact, I'll fire that question to you, and I'll come to you, Neil, first. Should audit be mandatory? I know they can't change it instantly right now, but going forward long term, should it be mandatory?
Good question. I think at the minute it's got to be voluntary and it's got to be seen to be more beneficial. I think at the moment, because it is voluntary, the people that want to improve or strive to improve do it for themselves. Currently there's 573 audit registered trainers. 273 of them are in organisations that are training. So I think it needs to be, you need to have that. You've got to have that want to do it before they can make it mandatory.
I've got to say that, I mean, A, I love that answer, voluntary but more beneficial. And B, I wasn't going to ask the same question to you, Kev, but after your response to me asking it to Neil, I am going to ask that same question to you. Should it be mandatory?
I think it's so controversial, isn't it? Because there is so many good instructor trainers that are not on audit. I'm going to put that out there straight away before I get shot down or anything. But it's not mandatory. I think there's got to be a partnership with the DVSA and us as instructor trainers to make it mandatory. They are starting to recognise us, and I say us, I mean audit trainers, by, if people fail standards checks, the DVSA are saying, go and find an audit registered trainer to help you. I think there needs to be more communication with audit trainers from the DVSA. And I think if you make it more attractive to become an audit trainer, then it become like the go-to. Does that make sense? And then it becomes, let's make it mandatory now that if you want to become an instructor trainer, you need to be audit registered. But at the moment, there's no need. It's just, I think that's a personal thing.
I like the difference in answers there as well, because I think I agree with both, which is quite odd. I kind of agree with you, Neil, in that it's almost selecting people that want to improve. It's making people make that choice. But I also like the idea of making it more attractive. So I kind of like both of that. But is there any other change you'd make to kind of the assessment itself, Kev, or do you think the assessment itself is actually pretty good?
Me personally, I think it's good. Because you've got to show off your skills. And I think that's where it's similar to a standards check. But with instructor training, it's slightly different in respect of, you've got to play 3 roles. But yeah, I like it as it is. I think you've got to show that you're looking at the trainee, whoever it is, whether it's a PDI, ADI, and you're meeting their needs and their wants. You have to do that. In a standards check, it can be more, shall I say, wavy line. You can move around a little bit, but in this one, there isn't really. You have to be fully in tune with the trainee.
And what about you, Neil? Is there any changes to the assessment you'd like to make?
No, not really. I mean, I thoroughly like the assessment itself as well. Like Kev said, you got 3 different roles to play. You've got lots of things to think about whilst you're in that training session as well. So I don't really see what else they could do to make it any different, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Well, let me move on to the training aspect of it then. The training to become audit. Even if someone didn't want to become audit and want to take that assessment and get that qualification, would you still recommend audit training?
Depends what you mean by audit training, because You've got to want to do it. If you're, like Kev says, there is a lot of good trainers out there training people to be instructors, but you've got to want to go that step further. So you can mention it, come and do audit training, come and have a look, see what it's all about. But they've got to want to do it. And that's the biggest thing at the minute, I think.
Let me put it a slightly different way as well then. So let's use me as the example again. I'm going to be the fall guy in all these examples, right? Let's say that I wanted to start training instructors, but I didn't want the qualification. The actual aspect of being audit was irrelevant to me. I just wanted to train trainers. Would you be happy with me coming to the Audit Academy and training me to do that?
Most definitely. Because, in the Audit Academy, you're going to gain other skills that will help you in the standards check or part 3, as well as the audit. And that's what makes it different to other training sessions, shall we say.
Yeah. And I think we've touched on this a bit already, Kev, but I think just for sort of clarification, who can provide audit training?
Who can provide? Well, I think anybody can do it. How well you do it, again, is open to interpretation. I think it's down to finding someone that you can work with, which I don't think is said enough. You have to fit with that person. You have to fit with those people that are training you. And I think it's going to just boost whatever you're doing. You want to go into instructor training. Well, what's it all about? Come and find out. We're very in the mind of, we do online training, we're doing car training, we chat to people, so, find out what we do. Find out what it's like to have a PDI sitting next to you, and you're putting your experiences across to them and making sure they learn what's actually happening and how they can bring that into their own lessons as well. And I think that's where it's a little bit more rewarding. I think instructor training, audit training, whatever you want to call it, really.
Yeah. And I think the other question I want to ask on this, just from a technical sense, is do you need any training to be audit? Or could I rock up, on March the 31st, having had no further training, and just turn up with an ADI or PDI and hope for the best?
Yep.
I mean,
well, we have to be sort of like, you have to apply to the register and you have to go through that process.
Yeah.
The same as you apply to become a driver. It's very similar to that, where you have to do all the paperwork first. But yeah, in theory, you don't have to take training. You could just go and get assessed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure anyone listening wouldn't, in the same way that when we see people coming into the industry, we recommend they get some training, even though technically they don't need it. The same way we recommend people learning to drive, get an instructor rather than just have their parents. But I think it's fascinating, this whole process from becoming a driver to becoming a driving instructor to becoming a driving trainer. There is no requirement to actually have any formal training. I find that fascinating. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic, because at the end of the day, I think it depends on your background, obviously, but can you teach someone to drive? I mean, the school of mum and dad do quite well, I think, from what I've seen personally. Do they teach them the actual driving behaviour side of things? Probably not, but they've been teaching that all their life, so they're going to follow mum and dad and what they do normally. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thought, and most people become, through my background of what I've noticed, most people want to become driving instructors because they're just taught their son or daughter to drive and they actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, that probably is a nice way of thinking about it. Do they need training? Not really.
I'm presuming that you would advise any ADI that wants to become a trainer, though, to get some form of training around.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
100%. I'm going to say that, but again, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Again.
And we'll be back with more from Neil and Kev in just a moment. But I want to give a quick shout out to the latest sign-ups to the Instructor Podcast Premium, and they are Gary Thomas, Matt Lawrence, James McAleer, and Victoria Phoenix. Big thank you to those guys for signing up. They get immediate access to over 140 exclusive shows to help them become better driving instructors, including the one that I'm currently doing, which is the 12 Days of Christmas. So we're currently halfway through the 12 Days of Christmas, which is people like Bob Morton, Lee Sperry, Liz Box, Emma Cottington, all these awesome people giving driving instructors things that they can work on in 2024. And there's been some brilliant ones so far. And if you want to check out some snippets of those for free, head over to the Instructor Podcast Facebook group. You can find some video clips over there from it. But yes, if you sign up to Instructor Podcast Premium, you get that whole host of content from amazing people, including one or two bits from myself. The best way to sign up is to head over to the website, www.theinstructorpodcast.com. You can find loads of information over there, or go to the show notes, or drop me a message, whatever works for you. But for now, let's get stuck into the show. Coming back to you then, Neil, the training itself, to become audit, what does that entail? What's the training like? Can you give me an idea?
What's it like? It's just about really understanding how you can influence the person that wants to become audit to teach his PDIs or ADIs, and how he's going to transfer that learning to them. So it's a little bit different to the normal. Well, I suppose it's not really, because, with a driving instructor training a learner driver, you're imparting that knowledge and that ability. And I suppose that's the same sort of thing at audit level. It's transferring the knowledge and the ability and getting them to understand how they're going to put that into being an ADI and delivering that to learner drivers.
Yeah. Is it, so you guys obviously run the Audit Academy, and you do your own stuff independently, respectively, as well. So is that kind of a mixture of, like Zoom attended sessions, and, you're doing stuff online, and you do stuff in car as well? Do you, potentially have people in the back of the car watching you delivery sessions, all that kind of stuff go on?
Yeah, I mean, we deliver online sessions. There's 4 Tuesdays, that you attend the online sessions, and then we do an in-car day as well. The in-car day believed to be a little bit different to everybody else, because we include PDIs, ADIs, and people wanting to be audit. And the people that attend the course set the agenda. So we facilitate it. So it's a little bit different to everybody else.
I might release this as a full video, because your smiles when each other are talking is really entertaining me right now. Kev, then, I'm going to throw this one at you. If an ADI is looking to be audit trained, so they're going to get a trainer, should they specifically or prioritize that trainer is audit trained themselves? Because I know you spoke earlier about them being some really good trainers out there that aren't. Should that be something if I was doing it, should that be something I would be at least considering?
Definitely consider it. Talk to the person. The person that's audit trained has been through the assessment, potentially the new assessment, not the old assessment as well, because it changed just before COVID. So, yeah, I would definitely seek out audit as in the first instance, and see what they're offering. I think sometimes people say, well, come and give me, this is what I do, this is how we do it. It might not suit you, that training. If that audit trainer is, flexible, we say, well, we do this, we do this, we do this. We offer different packages for you. Which one do you prefer? And I think that's where we come into our own. We tailor it to the student. We offer those online, which are small groups as well. We're not going to get loads of people on it, because we want people to be involved. The in-car days, we want PDIs in there so people get a feel for what it is like to train a PDI. But we also want them to train ADIs as well. So what does that feel like? And then we've also got the option of us stepping into the front and them looking at what we would do. So you've got a vast range of activities that we do.
Yeah. I can vouch first and for your in-car days, Kev, so there you go. What are the benefits then, Neil? So if, again, use me as the example, if I decided to go and become audit trainer and then go and qualify, what are the benefits to me for following that process?
I think the first benefit is personal development. You know, that's a big thing. It's that feeling of personal development, and you at the highest level, you're recognised by the DVSA at that highest level. The other benefits are that, like Kev said earlier, that examiners now are telling people to get some advice from an audit registered trainer, and they give that audit registered trainer's name out to the people in that area. So that's a massive benefit. There's the audit register that's online that you can look up and see where your audit registered trainer is. But it's all about the audit registered trainer sharing their knowledge and, you know, imparting that to the people, because, like I say, they're recognised by the DVSA as we're at the top, you know. So if they recognise that, then they're going to point people in the right direction to people that have trained and been through the assessment themselves.
That's interesting. I was going to, you know, when they said about recommending audit trainers, I'm going to ask if they're recommending them by name. So it's interesting that they actually do that. Is there any other benefits to being audit that you can think of, Kev, or as Neil nailed them all?
I think it's the actual self-accolade as well, isn't it? You know, if people came up to you and say, "Oh, you're an instructor trainer," you can go, "Well, yes, I'm audit registered," and that, "Oh, what's that?" So, you know, you can say that to them as well. And some people like that. Some people like having people that have done the training, and the trainer as well actually likes to say that they're audit registered. I do, because it's what I've done.
What would you say to all the negative Nellies out there? Kind of mentioned them at the start, and I see a lot of negativity online. And you mentioned before, Neil, about, you know, recognised by the DVSA. So we see that negativity around the DVSA. We know that if, you know, there'll be some instructors out there that hear you say recognised by the DVSA and turn their nose up at that. So the instructors out there turn their nose up at audit and the DV, all that kind of stuff. How would you respond to those guys or girls?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Really, because it's self promotion, isn't it? You know, if they don't want to achieve and they just want to sit in that negative center, then that's fine. That's up to them. But, you know, most people will want to push on. And if you want to push on, you'll look at doing audit and you'll look at improving yourself. You know, that's how I see it anyway. So,
what about if I came to you, Kevin? God, I'm using myself in a lot of examples here. What about if I come to you, Kev, and I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this, but I don't really see the point. How would you convince me?
How could I convince you, Terry? Terry, you know what it's like in my car. It's gonna it's gonna be fun, but it's also going to be learning. So even if, you know, I'd say you're thinking about becoming audit registered or instructor training, put your feet in. I'm going to say not your toes, but put your feet in the water. Come and have a look to see what it's like and see if you enjoy it. It is another tool that you can use in variety. A lot of people that we get through, and probably Neil can vouch for this in what he does personally as well, but they're getting a little bit bored of teaching learners. They're getting a little bit bored of just staying in their comfort zones, you know. So I would convince you and just say, come and try something new. See if you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, let's take it further.
And I think the last question I want to ask around this specifically, I've got some brilliant questions from my listeners here for you, actually, but the last question I want to ask, I'm currently a grade B. I hope my standards check 6 years ago now, I think it was. I passed the old PSTs, and then 6 months later got my standards check and got a B. And we know what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, so I've not bothered following up on that. If I wanted to be audit trained, I would obviously need to take another standards check and get an A. Would getting this audit training help me get an A on the standards check?
I've got a simple answer to that one. Yes.
That'll do. Right. So we've got some brilliant questions from my premium members. I put it into my chat and asked. So I'm going to fire these at you.
Any difficult ones, ask Neil.
Well, I'm going to ask them, and I'm going to wait and see who answers.
Oh, God, here we go.
So some of these we may have touched on already, but I'm going to ask them again just so we can, if you want to clarify any further. So Les Hopkinson had 3 questions. Number 1, if someone was thinking about getting into training instructors, where's the best place to start? I think I can answer that, can't I, before you two do, and say the ORDIT Academy. Because you're not going to see anywhere else, are you?
That would be a good start. Yeah, come and have a chat with us. Where else? Just get on the register and have a look to see where the audit trainer is, and just like Kev said, have a chat with them and see what they offer. Yeah, but first port of call is the Audit Academy.
There you go. Links in the show notes. Question 2. Does it really matter if you're audit registered? Does the public understand what audit is?
I think no, but I think on a personal matter, yes. And tell people what you do. And then the public know what it stands for. You know, most of my learners know that I'm audit registered. Haven't got a Scooby-Doo what that means. But then they go, what? And I go, well, it's this. And they go, oh, that's quite impressive. And then they tell mum and dad.
I think most of my learners know I'm a grade B, and I don't know why, but I seem to take a weird pride in telling them about the standards check and the fact that I'm a grade B. But either way, they never leave me. So, and then the third one from Les was, how does the audit assessment differ from the standards check? I think we covered that a lot in the beginning, so I don't think we need to go over that. So the next question is from Penny Alexander. What is involved in the audit assessment? Do you need to provide course materials or paperwork to show you're training someone? Now, we touched on that quite a bit at the beginning, but is there anything else if you want to add on to that? What's involved in the audit assessment, or do you think we covered it enough?
Well, I'd just like to add into that when I took my last audit assessment, I actually introduced video evidence. So that gives a clear example to the examiner that there is a real issue. And the comment that I got after that was, that's really good. That's the first time I've ever seen video evidence of what the issue is and how you're going to work that. So that was good, you know, and it's all about just having everything to hand. You know, if you've done your notes properly and if you've recorded your records properly, that'll be enough when you send them into the Audit Academy, into the audit examiner. Yeah. Nearly slipped up, Kev. Nearly got us some more work.
Well, you can send them to us first if you want to. We'll have a look through them and then just say, yeah, they're good.
I must admit, I really like that idea of showing the examiner video footage. It's like, what better evidence could you have? That's brilliant. Anything you want to add around that assessment, Kev? Or
Yeah, and no, not really. It's that's more or less it, really, isn't it? You know, just have the records up to date. But evidence, like Neil says, video is fantastic. We have so many conversations about video in lessons and how to use video, even audio. You know, we have so many conversations about that.
another question from Penny Alexander, and I really like this one. Not that I haven't liked the others, but apart from being a grade A instructor, do you need any particular qualities to be a trainer? And do these differ from those who are audit registered? I like that question. Do you need any particular qualities to be a trainer? And do these differ from those who are audit registered?
Over to Neil.
Oh, thanks. I would say that your qualities come from within, don't they? You know how to build rapport as a good driving instructor anyway. And it's just building on from that, to be quite honest. If you've got the motivation to keep striving to succeed, then that's a massive quality, isn't it? And that's where I get my motivation from. Just keep succeeding.
Keep succeeding. I like it. Anything you want to add qualities wise, Kev, to become an audit trainer?
I said, know what you're doing, and when you're doing it, have fun. We have so many. We sit in the. You wouldn't believe the amount of things lessons we sit in the back of, and it's almost like, really, how are you doing this? It's like, have a bit of fun, have a bit of variety, and that's what I like.
Kevin Ray asks, how long should I wait after becoming an ADI before considering heading down the audit training route?
We've had lots of conversations about this, haven't we?
Mm.
And we said, should there be one of the questions? I'm asking probably another question here, but should there be a minimum time that people should be driving instructors before they go instructor trainer? So not audit, but instructor trainers. And we came up with people should be sort of like get to know the knowledge, get to know what happens, and how long does that take? And obviously, people are going to be different times, but you can't remember what was it? Was it 3 years or 5 years that we came up with? We thought was a good time for people to then become instructor trainers.
Yeah, I think it's anywhere between that 3 and 5 year thing, because you build up your knowledge, you build up your abilities, and then you can then move on and look at being audit, because you've got to learn your trade, haven't you? You've got to learn the trade. It's no good coming straight from part 3 to audit. It's know what you can do at that first level, get that grade A, succeed from that, and then look at moving on. So yeah, we both agree between 3 and 5 years.
That number's interesting, because I was thinking about this myself, and I kind of came up with that number, and I think in relation to me personally, because when I passed, I was at a national driving school, and I think after 3 years, that's when I felt confident enough to go off by myself independent. And it took that 3 years before I felt like I was actually a good driving instructor. And I think I qualified thinking I was good. And after 6 months, I'm like, no, I need to get better. I was good when there was no pressure. Now it's my job. There's pressure, So that's an interesting one. Kevin Selwood asks, how can I check whether a trainer is on the audit register? I've had a very recent experience of a PDI coming to me for help after finding out his trainer isn't on the register, even though his training company told him he was. So how can you find out whether the trainer is on the audit register?
Well, you just log on to the DVSA website and go on to the audit register, and it'll list all the driving instructors that are on the audit register. And it's via postcode as well. So you put in the postcode, nearest postcode, and it'll throw them up. Yeah. Kev's laughing because normally when they put a postcode in for Luton, it comes up for Leicester. And I have to transfer them back to
Kev. Fair enough. He also asks about the audit assessments, if they're currently affected in the same way. Standard checks, we kind of touched on that earlier, but I'd be interested in your thoughts now. And I realise this is a guess, but I suppose a two-part question. Do you think that they're going to be changing audit going forward? And when it comes back in potentially from the 31st of March, do you think it's going to be like a mad scramble for everyone trying to get in? Or do you think they'll oh God, I can't believe I'm asking this. Do you think they'll manage that process quite well?
Say that last bit again.
I don't think I can bring myself to.
My personal opinion is when you think about standards checks and part 3s and part 2s, that hasn't dropped. The people trying to book those tests has not dropped. There is going to be a massive backlog of those tests. This is even before audit, I think. So I know they're going to restart it on 31st of March or just after. How many people are going to have an audit assessment? I know there's probably not, in the scheme of things, compare it to Part 3 standard checks, there's not many people. But I don't think we're not the priority, is my thoughts.
You ever will be. Do you recall it ever will be prioritised?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's recognised more. I think we should have more say in what goes on. I think we should have a better communication with the DVSA. They're saying they want to have better communication than they have been, but I don't think we have. I was fortunate to be on getting the standards checks back in after COVID, and I was on the working party to do that. And part of the thing that came up was, you don't talk to us. You've got these trainers from around the country, and you've handpicked us to come in because you trust us, and but you're still not telling us something. And because it's a government entity, their hands are tied and they can't do stuff. And it's even the forms that we're using are so out of date. It's just ridiculous. So, and those things take time to change. So will it change? Hopefully. And I think it will change for the better. But when is that going to happen? Who knows?
Neil, do you think that with obviously the assessments not occurring at the minute, and then when they come back, they'll A, be a backlog, and B, potentially, not be the priority, and C, potentially, not be managed very well. Do you think that people should still be taking audit training, so that in the hope that they get to a point where, for example, if we use you guys as an example, you guys could say, yes, you're at this standard now. We're happy for you. Go off and train ADIs. Do you think that they should still be doing that and utilising you guys, or any trainer, not specifically you guys, but as almost like the pass barometer?
Yeah, I'm very much in favour of people continuing training. Whether you're looking to do it or whatever, it's continue to do it. For example, I've said to a lot of ADIs over the last few weeks, they've stopped all standards checks, but they're going to come back. You need to be at that point where you can take your standards check and not have to worry about it. So why shouldn't you do the same at audit? Why shouldn't you get yourself prepared, get ready, and then be able to take the test?
Yeah,
I think training should be continuous, and everybody that knows me will know that I bang on about that all the time. From the day one, you take your standards check, or you take your audit assessment, you should be then thinking about the next one, not sitting back and thinking, oh, I've done that, I don't need to worry about that anymore. It's continuous. It's a continuous thing. And you know that, Kev knows that. I've always spoke about them sort of things.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then our last question, and I'm going to ask this because we kind of touched on it before, but again, if we look at the technical aspect, so Bev Kavanagh asks, do you have to be an instructor for a certain amount of time to become audit? So we're talking before about how long we should be, but do we have to at any length of time, or could you qualify and then immediately start training to become audit?
As long as you pass with a grade A. Yeah, you have to do a standards check though, don't you, to get your grade A to become audit, I think.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive of that. If you passed your Part 3 with a grade A, you then need to do a standards check and get the grade A before you can go on to the audit or apply for audit.
Some good questions there, weren't there? I enjoyed them. I'm not sure you did. Let me ask you this then, because we've not mentioned it so far. So do you want to tell us a bit about the ORDIT Academy?
Where do we start? It's us two. So it's always fun. It's always fun. That's the way we like to work. But yeah, it's a great training company, I think.
Why? Neil? What makes it a great training company? What's unique about it?
What's unique about it? Because what we do, people go, I didn't think of it that way. we have a different way of sort of like looking at training, and we do it from what have we been trained in and what would we like to see different? How can we make this training better? But it's not the same training that you will get everywhere else. You could probably do instructor training 12 different places and ours will still be different because of what we say, the way we do it, the way we come across to people. We also get people to work as well, which, if you've ever been on a training course and, you've done the training course, you sat there, you listened to it and then walked away. And then 6 months down the line, you'll go, can't remember that. What did I do there? We can almost guarantee that you will remember what we've done or you've done on our training because we make you do the work.
Yeah. And before I come over to you on this, Neil, I will, take this opportunity to say I've did an in-car training day with yourself, Kev, and I can vouch for that. You had me working on that day. Yes, it was fun. Yes, I learned a lot, but you had me grafting at times. And but by putting it into action, it does kind of roll along. And I will just chip in with a little plug for myself here, actually, because it's one of the things I'm going to be bringing in next year in the Instructor Podcast Premium is accountability. This idea that we get this training, but then actually implement it. And I think that we all, and I'm sure you guys would admit to doing this as well, because I know I do, we come across so much training, whether it's a course, whether it's reading a book or listening to a podcast, and a lot of it goes in one ear and out the other. We'll go, oh, that's a brilliant piece of information. I'm going to remember that. And then we don't remember it because we haven't actioned it. Now, we can't action everything, but I think we need to action more. So I like what you've said there, Kev. So Neil, what else can you tell us about the Audit Academy?
What else can I tell you? It's fun, and learning should be fun. You should be able to have a laugh, like we do on our practical days. The agenda is set by the person or people coming on the course. We're not going to change that. You guys are going to work to your agenda, and we're going to facilitate it for you, which I feel is probably very much different to what other training companies do. And we try to get every level in there. Like Kev said, with PDIs, ADIs, audit registered trainers, there's no distinction between each one. All can learn from each other.
So if I came to you, and I'll use the two extremes and I came to you and said, I want something really structured, can you walk me through from A to Z or A to Z? Or if I came to you and said, I've got all these ideas, can you incorporate this? Could you work with anywhere in that spectrum, basically?
I'm sure we could.
Excellent. Making notes for if I consider becoming audit trained.
You know what we'd say, though, Terry? We'd say, well, what is your structure?
I don't work well with structure. Like a crumbling scaffold is my structure. So is there any change you'd make to audit? I'll come to you first with this, Kev, because we kind of asked you about the assessment side before, but with the whole thing, is there any changes that you would, if you were in charge and got to be a love day for a day, what changes would you make to audit?
Oh, the picture has just come into my head. If I was love day for a day, what would I do? And do you know what I would do? I would get audit trainers together. Now, I'm talking just audit at the moment. I'm not talking driving instructors, so just audit. I'd get audit trainers together and say, right, what do you want to see happen? What do you want to change? What can we do? What's going to happen? And the first thing I would do after that is say, right, we're going to have another meeting in a month's time and say, what have we done? How close to are we getting that? And then we're going to have another meeting in a month's time and say, how close are we now? So, that you mentioned accountability. I think that's what we need, because the DVSA, and you probably know this and everyone knows this, they're really good at saying, right, this is where we are. This is what we're going to do. And then you don't hear nothing for another year and say, this is what we've done. This is what we're going to do. And it's rubbish, isn't it? And so, yeah, I would just like to get in You don't have none of these email stuff. Let's just get in properly and say, right, come on, let's sort this out. Let's sort this out, because it's the actual assessment process is okay. The paperwork is shocking, for trainee instructors and all that. It's not fit for purpose in my eyes. So yeah, I'd just say, right, room, a month's time, let's do it again and do it again until we get it right.
I must say, I'm very much looking forward to the success of 2023 DVSE email that's going to come through in January, because we know how well that went down January this year. All right, Neil, is there any changes you would make if you got to be loved day for a day?
I have to agree with Kev, because we've spoke about that for a long time. But I'd also incorporate the SEs with audit trainers as well. Get them into a conversation like we're having now, so it's open and honest, and all the SEs know who the audit trainers are, and then they can recommend quite easily more benefits to getting an audit registered trainer as well.
And you've mentioned quite a few times throughout this episode about the idea of training and continuing with your development and stuff like that. So do you want to take a moment to tell us about some of the CPD that you're either doing at the minute, or maybe something you've got lined up for the future?
So obviously there's my book that obviously I'm selling to everybody. That's continuous training. For myself, I'm actually a practitioner in mentoring and coaching with the IAPCNM. And I'm looking now to push my practitioners mentoring up to senior mentoring. So that is my focus at the minute, to become a senior mentor and push that along. So that's my first goal within 2023 to get that. And any sort of CPD, I'm going to be on top of it. I was with you and Kev earlier for that training, and I put all my instructors through some of Kev or Tracy's training as well, and I'm sure they're going to be going through the rest of it as long as as well as me as well. So,
Well, you've mentioned your book now, so when I give you a chance to plug your stuff, you're banned from mentioning Untwisting the Road to Success, available at all good bookstores and Amazon. Kev Field, what are you like for CPD at the moment? Is there anything on your radar, anything you're currently taking part in?
Well, I think, most of us know that I always do CPD, whatever it is, wherever it is. If it's to do with what I'm working towards, and I don't know if you know this or not, I know, but we're getting a qualification. So the Drive Calm course that we do with confident drivers is going to become a qualification. We've passed the first hurdle, but we obviously need extra training to be assessors or verifiers. So that's my next step. But also learning about neurodiversity as well. So there's lots to learn. And yeah, so I'm taking it forward a little bit to be able to help others in whatever I can learn. I'm going to be going forward from that. So yeah.
The only problem with asking you guys and all the other guys that have been on this season for what CPD they're doing is that I get excited and I want to go do it, but I can't do all of the CPD that you guys are doing. It's very frustrating. I think I might stop this. But Neil, do you want to take a moment to tell us where they can find you, what you've got to offer? And yes, you can mention your book, Untwisting the Road to Success.
Okay, so they can find me at Why to Learn Driver Training. Obviously on the internet. They can find me at the Audit Academy. They can find me on LinkedIn, and they can find me on Facebook. I'm open to answering any questions and talking to people, having a chat, see how can help them. Obviously, the book will help them, so I'll always plug that and push that as well for them. But that's having some really good success. Other than that, Audit Register. That's where they can find me as well.
But in all seriousness, congratulations on the book. I'm a fan, and I think that seeing the way you promoted it this year and seeing some of the sales you've done, I know you're really proud of those. So, congratulations on achieving that. I think we all know that it's hard to get driving instructors engaged in CPD and to actually shell out money and go and pay for stuff. So the fact that is it over 500 copies you've sold now?
Yeah, so 510 since the 1st of April. So I think that's a massive achievement. You know, if they can help me get to 550 by Christmas, that'd be brilliant. Because I'm sure it's a present that every ADI wants out there.
Well, there will be a link in the show notes for anyone listening. So just go and click link and you'll get through to it. So, Kev, do you want to take a moment to tell people where they can find you and what you offer?
So where can you find me? You can find me, obviously, Kev Field, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all that sort of stuff, the driving confidence coach. But also, probably now, it's going to be the Confident Drivers website. So me and my wife, Tracy, she'll be able to talk to you. I'll be able to talk to you. That's the best place, probably, to get in touch, because Tracy's now full-time. Well, she will be in the new year. And she's now full-time working with us. So that's going to be quite exciting, really.
Yeah, I'm also very proud of you as well, Kev, and Tracy. Well done.
Very much.
But no, thank you guys for joining me today. Like I say, I think that the audit thing it's been under my radar, I think, and I think subconsciously I've never been overly engaged, I've never been overly infused by it. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I think this conversation has shown me why. I think that the I don't know, the instructor in me, the person I am, wants to develop and wants to train and wants to always try and improve who I am. But when I look at the actual qualification and the almost the loops you've got to jump through sometimes to get it, especially with the state it's in now, that puts me off. So I think I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place as to where I go with that. And I think that's probably why it's fallen under my radar for a bit. So at the very least, this conversation has helped me work out where I stand. So yeah, appreciate your time today, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Terry.
So big thank you to both Kev and Neil there. Really appreciated them joining me and taking my questions around audit. As I mentioned in the show, if you want to find out any more from those guys, head to the show notes and you'll find links for everything you need over there. Also, as I mentioned at the start of the show, this is the last episode of season 6, so a big thank you for listening, but we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up for next year. So first of all, in January, on the 17th, we have the second Meganar. Now, if you want to go back and watch the first one, you can find a 1-hour highlights package on the YouTube channel, or you can join the Instructor Podcast Facebook group where you'll find the entire video, the full 3.5-hour video from the one we did in August of 2023. But in January 17th, we've got the second one there with some amazing speakers, so really excited about that. Season 7 of the Instructor Podcast will be returning in March. We're going to be coming back with something slightly different because we are going to be putting themes to the seasons going forward. And the next theme for Season 7 will be Road Safety / Vision Zero. And what I'm going to be looking at is bridging the gap between the road safety campaigns and our industry, because I think there is quite a big gap there. I think that the road safety campaigns and organisations don't utilise driving instructors enough. And as driving instructors, we definitely don't promote and utilise them enough. So I'm looking to get information on the campaigns and work out how we can use it to develop lessons, develop our schools, and essentially make the roads a safer place to be. So really excited about that. And that's how the seasons are going to be going forward. We're going to be theming the seasons. Also want to take a moment to say that just because the instructor's on hiatus doesn't mean there won't be any additional content. Still going to be green rooms every month. But on top of that, check out the Instructor Podcast Premium. Over there, there's at least 3 new shows every month. We've got things around the GDE matrix. We've got standards check stuff. We've got coaching, as well as self-care and mindfulness. And we've got a new show starting actually in February with the wonderful Emma Cottington, who is a mental health first aider, coming to talk about that stuff as well. So loads of really cool stuff going on over there, including the already 140 shows that we have in the bank over there to help you become an even more awesome driving instructor. Speaking of which, in April, I start my 9-month-long course. It's not really a course, but I don't know what else to call it yet. It's basically getting you consistently confident on the competencies. So from April until the end of next year, we're going to be putting a lot of focus around the competencies within the standards check. And I've been planning this for about 9 months now. And I'm not going to tell you all I've got planned. You'll have to wait and see. But we do have the ADI Dr. Lee Sperry coming in to deliver some expert sessions and got loads of cool stuff planned. So keep your eye out for that coming up, starting off on April the 1st. So as you can see, lots of stuff planned already for next year. So, make sure you're following us. Go and click subscribe to the newsletter. Again, you can find that in the show notes or the website, www.theinstructorpodcast.com. Over there, you'll get updates on all the stuff that's going on. So you can always know what's going on with the Instructor Podcast. As I said previously, big thank you to listening for this year. But remember, let's just keep raising standards.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.